You're listening to Living Out Loud with my mom, Michelle Flamer. Yep, she's a flamer and proud of it. Get ready to learn about queers in your communities doing great things every week.
Welcome back to Living Out Loud. Today we are honored to be in conversation with two people, you heard it, who are not just doing important work, but who are holding space for some of the most vulnerable and resilient young people in our communities. From Toronto, Canada, we are joined by Elton McDuffis. Hopefully I said that right. I should have asked you. A community leader and advocate whose work reflects a deep commitment to equity, dignity, and belonging. Elton brings a lens of lived experience, leadership, and care for 2SL LGBTQIA plus youth. We covered all the alphabet, and his presence in this work speaks to what it means to show up consistently for community when it matters most. We are also joined by Yuri, Youth Services Manager at Friends of Ruby. Yuri leads a frontline team made up of people with lived queer and trans experiences, offering housing support, mental health care, and community connection for the same alphabet youth ages 16 to 29. Their work is rooted in something powerful, meeting young people exactly where they are, without condition, without judgment, and with deep humanity. Together, they represent Friends of Ruby, a Toronto-based nonprofit that provides mental health services, transitional housing, and wraparound supports for 2SL LGBTQIA plus youth. At its core, Friends of Ruby is about one thing: making sure every young person who walks through their doors is seen, supported, and reminded that they matter. This is not just a conversation about services. It is a conversation about safety, identity, healing, and what becomes possible when a young person is finally met with care instead of conditions. How was that?
It's good,
You
yeah.
guys sound legit, don't you? No, that was,
Definitely.
it was really fun to learn, about what you guys do. I think before we go into, because I love talking and hearing about coming out stories, I think it's always such a beautiful way to get to know both of you in a way that allows us to sort of be on your journey and where the career arc and how you got into nonprofit. Because every person that I talk to on here, every guest that works at nonprofit, they've had a unique journey to this. And so I love hearing the coming out story. But before that, I want to talk about, because I don't talk a lot about the 2SL LGBTQIA plus. Can one of you, Yuri, maybe just take a stab at telling us a little bit about what all those represent?
Yeah, so the 2S is for two-spirited folks.
Two-spirit, okay, and that's because of the indigenous. You have a lot of Native Americans and tribes up throughout Canada.
Yes, and also it's been historical in their history for many, 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 many years.
Yeah.
But it's at the forefront because those are the folks that were on the land first and took care of the land and continue to. And so that's where Two-Spirit comes from.
So wait, talk a little bit more about Two-Spirit real quick.
Yeah.
Can you tell us the definition of what is a Two-Spirit?
Two-spirit is like they carry spirits of both. Like you don't want to necessarily put them in a binary also of okay, they're carrying masculine and feminine. That's the easiest way I think for folks to comprehend it. But there is not really a binary. They carry the knowledge, they carry experiences, and the fluidity of what it means to be two-spirit. And so they're not boxed off, but they carry that fluidity with them.
Can anyone be two-spirited, or is it really just through the native land? Elton, Elton, do you want to answer that?
You're correct. It's based on the native historical background and growing up being native. Someone can identify as two-spirit.
That's so cool. That's so interesting. As you could hear from Elton's voice, everybody, he is from Jamaica. All right. I have to say it like that. I don't know why I do that, but I don't know. It's so stupid. But anyways, I would love to then thank you for explaining that also, because I knew it, but I like to get clarity, and maybe someone else learned something really cool today. So thank you for that. Elton, do you want to start with your coming out story?
Sure, let me take a stab at it. So my coming out story is quite unique.
Mm.
Very much unique because I've had multiple coming out stories. I first came out to my sister that I'm closest to, met this boy, fell in love, and wanted someone very close to me to just know that side of me and that side of my lifestyle because I hid who I was from my family, from growing up to adulthood to living on my own. I never once disclosed until I met this boy. I
Wow.
disclosed to my sister, and she was very comforting. Like, she was like, "I'm here for you. I love you just the same." I myself, I've done stuff like with girls. I've had experiences, and thanks for sharing. And I'm here for you. And that moment just bonded us closer, and made us, I think, the closest in our family. But when that relationship ended, I was heartbroken, and I decided to use that moment to come out to my mom
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yeah.
Hmm.
because I felt like if I'm already hurting, what can she say to make me hurt more?
Right.
Not the best thing, but I felt like, just get all the pain in all at once, and then you'll be fine. And I came out to my mom when we broke up, and she didn't take it quite well at first. But then I had my sister. My sister was able to call her, coach her, provide some information, give her some understanding. And we all had a conversation. And she said, "Well, I don't understand it very well. I still love and appreciate you. And it's going to take me some time." And no, she's a champion. She's a champion for the community. Like, she said some brave stuff, and she has old space for me, so much so that when I was outed now to my family, because I did an interview with the national paper in Jamaica, and from the interview about growing up and being bullied in high school,
Mhm.
the paper title, um, my story as "Gay Man Was Bullied."
Oh, interesting.
And it became a national debate in Jamaica but at the time I was living in Toronto, so I wasn't scared, but I felt bad for my family who didn't know my sexuality.
Mhm.
But again, my mom held space and supported me during that time. So I never felt like I was alone. So I didn't I was okay. Even though I was forced out to to a country basically. But a lot of my life living in Jamaica, I was working on the front line. I was working for local 2S LGBTIQ organization. So I became known. I was a face there. It's just that my family, I always kept it from them. And at that time,
Mhm.
they found out everything. And most were champions for me. Most supported me. Some, as you can understand, Jamaica is quite homophobic at times.
Yes. Yes.
So some of my family members to date I haven't spoken to because they were very negative towards me being outed and me not confiding or coming to them about who I am.
I mean, even the jellyfish there are mean.
Yeah.
They just they just shock you.
Yeah.
Oh, they're
Strike you,
tiny and they
yeah.
just
They're
shock you.
baby. Yeah.
But
Yes. It
in my
hurts.
in my multiple coming out stories, I've always felt like the foundation that I needed existed, so I was okay. And that was the beauty of coming out and living out loud and proud. Even this year when I went home, my mom said that some of my families were discussing me. And I said, "Oh, they're discussing my sexuality? Still? That's still a thing?" I'm like, wow, they must have nothing to talk about. And she was just laughing. So I know that the love and care that I need exists there. So nothing else matters.
Yeah. Well, you've got a beautiful heart, and I don't think she wanted to, lose your energy because, you can feel that. It's really cool.
Thank you.
Yuri, tell me.
I hate to be the bearer of great news, but I had similar essence to Elton.
Really?
Yes, I did. Around 12, I remember watching a Scooby-Doo episode with the Hex Girls on rerun, and I was like, oh my gosh, these goth baddies. Like, I went to my mom and I was like, would you be upset if I married a woman down the line? Such a odd question to ask at 12, but I did it anyways. And she was like, do I get to go dress shopping? Because that's my main concern here. And I was like, yeah. And then she's like, then I don't have a problem. And so
Wait, so you couldn't be a stone cold butch or anything like that?
no, because I'm
she would have been upset with that. Like if you're like, no, but we could go suit shopping if you want to. And then she's like, what?
It's hilarious. I love a good jumpsuit. I did growing up, but
Nice.
I love a STEM, like streetwear. I love to be mask, and really embrace my non-binary side of myself. But yeah, definitely was like, I need a dress when I get married. But she was very supportive. I'm also, my background is in Venezuelan and Guyanese, though I was born in Canada. And so similar sentiments to Elton's story, I was mostly nervous about coming out to my dad. But my dad is someone who's very spiritual. And so even when I mentioned it to him, he was like, okay. Like, I guess that's what it is. He's like, also, like, I didn't raise daughters. I didn't raise sons or daughters. I just raised people. And he never gendered us growing up. And so when I started working at Friends of Ruby and started identifying as being non-binary and really embracing those masc and femme side of myself and rejecting the things that society has placed upon me as being AFAB, so that's assigned female at birth, who tells me that I have to, make babies and that's my job in the world? Who says that I can't do all those things? Like, I can do all of that and more. And so it's special to me, but I love being non-binary because it gives me the freedom to lead my life as I want to live. And that was well received by my family as well. Funnily enough, the only issues I ran into coming out were with other queer folks of my family questioning my identity. But for the most part, yeah, it's odd. Like, being
they're
like,
oh, they thought it was a phase or something.
Yeah, or like, you can't be non-binary. Like, and I'll be like, what do you mean I can't be? I'm like,
right.
Like, your sister's literally trans. Like, what are we talking about here? And I would say, though, my biggest support in navigating, like, figuring out who I am and coming out, like, publicly, because I think I came out publicly, like, around 18 or 19 was my partner. My partner, we've been together for 8 years, and I said to him, I was like, navigating these pieces and coming out, like, I'm really nervous because he's also Cuban and Jamaican, and so I didn't know, working in community and being public and, doing podcasts like this, what that would mean for his family. And he's always been like, I don't care. Like, you do what you need to do, and I'm here and I'm right behind you.
It's interesting because my mom being a boomer, right? And when I told her what I wanted this podcast to really be about, which is amplifying queers doing like rainbow, having like creating rainbow ripples in the world, right? Which I'm now going to trademark because everyone really likes that. And I'm like, okay, well, that's a new thing. But my mom was like, isn't queer derogatory? And I was like, Mom, that was like in the 70s. Like, that's where they thought it was like more, lean more derogatory. I said, now, because there's so many unique ways to show up in your authentic, just like you were talking about, like the fluidity of you. Like, who the hell's going to tell you, Yuri, that you can't, guess what? You get to be blue if that means that you just get to walk blue. Like, what does blue mean to you? You know what I mean? It's like we could make things up and it wouldn't matter, because if that's authentically who you truly are, you're like, no, I am not non-binary. I'm blue. And everyone's like, what the hell? But it's, it's for you to identify. So it's been really interesting, sharing that with my mom, in the sense of like, no, queer is just the umbrella. And that is a really important aspect in where we're going, right, you guys? Like, and sort of, and we'll go into your career trajectory and how you, landed there. But it's like one of those things where I love the fact that it's showing us that we're all in this together. Like, we're only stronger together.
Yeah.
Always,
So,
always.
okay. So Elton, tell us a little bit. Did you always want to be working with a nonprofit? Was that like what you thought you would be doing?
No.
Yeah.
Far, very far from it.
What did you want to do?
So I wanted to be an information broker. So
Wait,
I'm an
there's certain things up in Canada that do not translate to America.
so funny enough, like I loved history growing up. So I studied history until
History,
university
gotcha.
level. I started history and archaeology, and then in my first year, I fell in love with library and information studies because I found out that I could do research and also be an information broker, like someone who researches stuff and then sell that information, really. So I said, okay, I love research. I like passing on information, and I think when you find valuable information, you can sell it for real good money. So that's what I'm going to do: research and sell it. And I started
I
that.
love that, because in my mind, information, it really lends itself more to technology, right?
Yeah.
IT and stuff like that. So that's why I didn't know, like, okay.
Yeah. So I studied library and information at university. And right out of university, I was employed to the nonprofit to do their library system because they had a small library. And I worked there on their library, and then they were like, "We want you on staff, even if you are our administrator." So I said, "Okay, if you can pay me, then I'll stay." And they're like, "Give us a price." And
Oh, yeah.
they gave it to me, and they took me on as a project assistant and an administrator, and I stayed with that organization for 6 years. I became a senior manager there, working on programming, admin, procurement, everything that you can think of. I was the go-to guy.
But I want to go back for 1 second and ask you, when you gave them the price, right? Like, this is the
Yeah.
price to work. Were you in a space of like really knowing your worth at that point, and you really asked for it?
I knew my price when I got my degree. I said I
Love
worked too
that.
hard to not ask for what I want. So
Mhm.
even I won't say that now, but everywhere I go, I'll say everywhere I go, I negotiate my salary.
I
I
love
do
that.
state what I want, what I'm worth, what my
Good.
experience are, so that people can know what they're getting. So you can
Yes.
pay for what you're getting, right? So I
Yeah.
knew exactly how much I wanted, and I was ambitious. I've always been ambitious. And when they said yes, I was like, okay, I should have asked for more then, because this yes was easy.
That was so easy, right? Exactly.
But I knew going there that was a possibility because every year, every staff got a pay raise because I was working for that organization.
Mhm.
Period.
I like it.
Because I'm always advocating. I like to say I'm an advocate first, so it came easy for me to say yes. Yes, because it was an advocacy organization underground fighting for the rights of twist LGBTIQ Jamaicans, and I
Yes.
felt like I could have impact there. I could do research there. I could, and funny enough, the project that I was asked to come on for was a project to support finding a place for homeless twist LGBTIQ youth in Jamaica
Wow. So
because there was
aligned.
no space existed like that, and the community was basically living in the gully, and you can see that from several interventions that happened in Jamaica to bring awareness to the community and to get support. So now there are several safe houses in Jamaica out of the work that we did, which I'm very proud of. I didn't know I was gonna work because when I migrated here, I said I'm done with nonprofit. I've given back to the community. I've given back of my time, so it's now to go
Can't stay
corporate.
away. You can't stay. You know what? Because I think a lot of times what I'm finding out when I'm talking to folks who are really in the nonprofit world now, it's anything else feels less than, right? It feels like you're not really like living within purpose or and like what's really passionate because you really do have to have it's a labor of love is what I've heard before. Yuri, is that your sort of idea through that also?
Yeah, I definitely would say it's a labor of all emotions, and
Mhm.
then it's like sealed in this bag of love. Um, I think the nonprofit world can be messy. It can be, the waves can change very rapidly. But the team that you have and the support that you have is what is able to get you through. They say like smooth seas don't make for good sailors. And
Right.
so that is kind of like what you do when you're in nonprofit.
Mhm.
You just become really skillful sailors. And then us two as leaders is we hope to, you know, support the staff in the way that they also are having their own skill set, and how do we like embrace that and add it to the thing so we're like this big well-oiled crew who can sail the Titanic and it's not sinking. And when it does sink, what do? We gather and we prevail. So I think it definitely is a labor of love, but I think I would be remiss to not also acknowledge all those other pieces, because it also takes a certain level of optimism, a certain level of
Yeah, that hope.
energy and push to do the work that we do. But I'm very grateful for my team. I would not be who I am and where I am without the team members that I have.
So I'll ask you the same question. Did you think you'd be in nonprofit work? I mean, or what were you going after?
Yeah, I thought I was going to be a pathologist, and then I did chem and bio, and they said, girl, you're not cut out for that. You're not good at chemistry. You're not good at biology. And I said,
Right.
okay. I think I've been doing social work a lot of my life, and I don't think I actually acknowledged it until I had a social worker of my own who was tatted to the nines, who had piercings to the nines. And I was like, you can look this cool and work and support people. That's real. And so I went and I did my bachelor's of social work, and I thought I was going to do one-to-one therapy. That was like my goal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I really didn't enjoy the community class I had. My professor was no bueno. Um,
God,
and
a
then
teacher could really make or break the
it
whole,
really can.
like that's crazy, right?
It really can. And then funnily enough, that's where I ended up landing. But it was through the work that I did in long-term care when I did my practicum and I worked there. And through the shelter work that I did, that really gave me foundational skills that then when I was able to land at Friends of Ruby, I was able to really increase those skills, refine those skills. And Friends of Ruby did invest in me. They were I've had a few different positions and I've been able to grow in this organization, and I feel very valued to be able to have that opportunity and that honor to. Um, and so, did I think I was going to land in community social work? No, but does it make absolute sense? Like, absolutely. I
Yeah.
always say I'm like a social worker from the streets, for the streets, will forever be in the streets. Amen to that. Um, but I just think that that's the way it be. And I love middle management because I'm not removed from the participants. It's really important to me to see their growth,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes able to help support navigating conflict as well, and being able to support staff. I get genuine happiness when staff come and they're like, I feel really heard, or they're like, I'm having a really shitty day, let's talk through some pieces. That is genuine happiness. So despite leaving frustrated, or if I'm angry one day, I leave grateful every time.
Love that. So when you guys think about the young people who walk through your doors, what is the first truth you wish the world understood about them?
Hmm.
Yeah, I get deep.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Mhm.
The first thing that pops into my mind, I wish the world could just understand their existence,
Mm-hmm.
their being, just wanting to be safe and to be authentic and to be validated,
Yeah.
right? I just wish that. Because sometimes, and a core part of what we do and a core part of our mission is to validate youth experiences, right?
Mhm.
And it sounds very minor, but it's a big thing when we contribute to that level of validation in youth experiences, where they feel seen, heard, and understood.
Mhm.
And that sometimes that's all they want, to be heard, seen, and understood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish the world operated on a baseline of respect.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
don't, you might not agree with how I live my life. You might not agree with my partner. You might not agree with what I do in the bedroom, but that's my life. The same way I respect your life, I wish that they would give the same to the youth. So I'm not asking you to change any of you have to be willing to do that work. You can't
Mhm.
tell a transphobic person, you could teach them everything under the sun and they might still be transphobic.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So I 10 toes down agree with what Elton said and just that baseline of respect.
Mhm. That's beautiful. What was the moment in your own journey that made this work feel just not important, but it like felt more personal for each of you?
For me, when I was an intake coordinator before my management position, it was um, an intake that was very identical to my own life and my own experience I had.
Mhm.
Um, and just them being able to show up um, and, for lack of a better term, talk themselves off the edge to get to our doors.
Mhm.
Um, that for me was like Friends of Rupees saving queer lives. And it sounds silly because we're already doing that, but I think it's different when it's become so personal.
Mhm.
Um, and so many of our youth have lived so many different lives and had so many different experiences, and
Mhm.
they just prevail through it. And yeah, I think that was one of the moments for me.
I love that.
Yeah.
Elton?
For me, I was miserable in my last job.
Mm.
And even though I saw the impact and the work that I was doing with the community, a friend of mine actually reached out and said, "Hey, I used to work for this organization and I think you would be perfect there." So I said, "Okay, where?" And they said, "Friends of Ruby." And I'm like, it's a smaller organization, so I don't know about that." And she said, "No, just take an interview. You don't have to take the job. Do the interview, vibe, and see how it goes." And I took the interview, and in that interview, I felt seen, validated. And I read the mission and the values for the organization, and I'm like, if I get this feeling from an interview, and when I ask about the organizational culture and what was said to me, it was a lasting impression. So I said, if I can take my experience to this organization with the skills that I have, I can impact the youth that I couldn't help in Jamaica because we
Yeah.
didn't have those spaces. So I'm like, I like to say I'm a very intentional person. So I live my life with intentions,
Right.
and I felt like in that moment it was just meant to be when that friend reached out, because right now just seeing the youth and them being able to stabilize and to have like a permanent dwelling and to grow from there gives me joy and purpose. I feel like I'm doing like God's work, for lack of a better word.
Yeah,
I feel
no,
like I'm doing impactful work, and it's just the gratitude that comes with it, because the youth, they go on and they speak so highly of their experiences. And I'm like, you don't have to pay me at the end of the month. I do need it, but that already feels like that
look,
already feels like I'm winning.
I mean, look, I'm a mom of a 14-year-old, very much queer identified. And, she goes to a performing arts school. All the kids are like queer identified. Like it's so fascinating. It's
Yeah.
like, so the whole safety piece is so big for me. Like, and
Huge.
also when her friends aren't feeling seen at home, like I get what you do. It's like, I love being there in those moments for them. Like just making them feel really heard and seen. And it's like they just blossom in the moment. Like you see the softness drop, right? Like the weight of the world just sort of probably melts the minute they walk through the door. So for like a young person who has experienced, rejection at home, why do you guys think that safety, what does safety actually look like in the first 24 hours they arrive, they come to you? What does all that look like? And you guys might approach it differently, or if it's like a Friends of Ruby way that you guys do it.
You want to jump in, or you want me to jump in?
I can go first.
Yeah.
So a part of it is we allow the youth to dictate that first 24 hours,
Mhm.
right? So
I love
if they
that.
need a support person there through that intake piece, and I love how we do our intakes. It doesn't happen anywhere else where the intake team is dedicated to meeting and support the youth before they even come to the transitional housing space, right? So it's like a warm integration into the organization. And then when they come to the house, it's just a warm encounter in just talking through what the program is and what the expectations are. But nothing too overloading because we want the youth to just feel at least comfortable in the space to open up when they do get to that level. But most of it is just being warm. I like to say that it's not a house, it's a home. So we call it the Friends of Ruby home
Mhm.
because the staff, the youth there, we all operate like a family and
Yeah.
we try to lead with those values. So each individual that comes through that door, even if it's a visitor, if it's someone who's coming for one time or multiple time, it's always that warm greeting and welcome that makes the environment it in itself feel safe.
This is just a me question, but like, since you guys are in Toronto, will you take
Mhm.
youth from British Columbia too?
Yeah.
Uh, if they're migrating to
Yeah.
Toronto, yes,
Yes.
we do
Gotcha.
the intake because we
Yeah.
do virtual intakes too.
I
But
gotcha.
you,
Yeah. It's Elton and I work really closely together, and I think there's this duality, right? Because when they arrive to Elton, they're arriving from really precarious situations, sometimes abuse, sometimes they've been living rough for an extended period of time. And so that's a very specific type of safety that Elton has created for those youth to arrive.
Mhm.
Where I'm at the youth center. And so at the youth center, we have our drop in service, our case management, and our counseling services. And so the first touch point is the youth center so they can get registered unless they register online and stuff. And I think for that, for the use of the pronouns is one of the biggest things for the
Oh, I
youth that
love
are
that. So
coming.
maybe sometimes that's like the first time they are hearing other people other than their sort of
Absolutely.
chosen family, but like like someone, an adult, really, saying she, her, or however
Mhm.
they want to be, addressed.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Especially a stranger, like,
yes.
they don't know any of us, and so to use the right name that might not match their
Mhm.
legal documents, but
That's
that is
right.
their name, that's their identity, their pronoun, is a blanket of safety. I'd like to say it's like layers you peel back in like a pie
Love
crust, you
that.
know? The second one is like in touring the space and getting them acclimated to the space. Do you want a snack? Do you want a pop? When I think what Elton too was speaking to earlier about meeting youth where they're at. Some of our youth only want to come for essential services. So they're like, actually, being in the communal space is not necessarily what I need right now. I just need the groceries and harm reduction kits. So that's what they'll come for. And then they'll head their way. But the safety is the access, being able to come to a place that is safer than what's out there. There's not a lot of third spaces. There's not a lot of third spaces for queer folks in general. And to add a layer to that, there's actually not a lot of like queer spaces under the umbrellas that are outside of like gay men,
Right.
for like lesbian folks and for non-binary folks. And so, like it's a big deal when you're talking about the umbrella that they're able to come to the youth center and to have that integration. And they really learn from each other and then create safety and community by connecting in the youth center. So yeah, it is definitely layered, but yeah.
I love that. So, like many of your counselors and staff share lived experience, how does that shape the healing process in a way clinical settings sometimes cannot?
Yeah, I think to speak to the initial piece of like safety is working with queer therapists initially. So all of our frontline folks are also part of the community. And so the lived experience that they share is it could be the familiarness of queer joy, like how Elton and I talked
Mhm.
about our coming out stories. It could be that they had really tragic coming out stories or, went through transition and they understand what transitioning means. And so what I think it adds is a layer of safety, but also this layer of nuance of, if I bring this up in a session, like they're going to sit there and look at me awkwardly, like, so why don't you educate me a little bit more about that? And though that
Right.
happens sometimes, there's just a basis of how that exploration happens that's navigated differently than a cis hetero person navigating that with a queer individual.
Wait, so Yuri, like you lead that frontline team. It's like what do you carry emotionally after a hard day and how do you release it for yourself? How do you get back to center?
I'm very lucky to work with my best friend. She is the
Oh,
clinical team lead. Shout out Danny. And so she does a lot. I'd be remiss to give her kudos because she does a lot of the front facing work with the clinical team. And then we
yeah.
kind of merge our brains together on like the bigger pieces. So getting back to center is easier because I have the support there of like,
Mm.
okay, we're navigating these challenges together. Yes, I might have the title of a manager, but the way our director has shaped Danny and I to talk about us is that we're a continuum of support. We're a
Mm.
continuum of leadership. And I also work very closely with Elton. Elton and I did a grief and loss training recently of Train the Trainer, and we were able to just get to know each other more and connect on the pieces that are frustrating a little bit. And so I think getting back to center is being able to have those pieces of leadership can be really isolating and really lonely sometimes.
Yeah.
And so to have people in your corner who might understand what you're going through or who are able to provide an alternative perspective.
Well,
Sometimes
at
you're
the end
so
of the day, you
the work.
guys need to feel seen as much as, the kids walking through the door. So I love that you guys are all able to sort of hold space for each other and also probably have a little levity. Like no one can laugh about certain stuff, but you guys, you know what I mean? It's like if anyone overheard us, they would not even know why we were laughing. But like we understand the moments of where the levity comes in. So if
Yeah.
we were sitting here 10 years from now, what would have to change in the world for you to feel like your work is no longer urgent, but instead sustaining? I love
That's
stumping you guys.
Okay. 10 years is not a long time.
yeah.
It's seeming off, but it's not. But in an ideal world where 10 years seems very long and we have the time, I'd say at the baseline, that level of respect that exists to
Mhm.
just be where youth is not turned away from their home because of their identity or sexual orientation. I think at the core, our services wouldn't be that urgent, right? It will just be a space for folks who are probably relocating and need a space or
Building
we need to
community.
building community. Because again, sometimes when the youth comes to our space, and even when they get that level of independence to leave, they don't want to leave because they have this established community already that they want to just keep, right? Which we try to let them know that it exists outside of the building, right? And teaching them to connect with resources in the communities. But at the base level, just that level of respect and acceptance, um, rest across the board. People will be able to just be at home and be like, oh, mom, I feel different, or I think I am. And it's just celebrated and accepted and validated. Then a lot of youth would be at home right now with their
Yeah,
families.
totally, totally. What like what's the North Star for you guys right now in the organization? What's like one really big push that you're really doing right now?
I think it's
Um,
keeping our youth alive,
Yeah.
keeping our youth as housed as we can. Um, I like to use the language that they're not discharged from our program once they turn 30, is that they graduate.
Mhm.
And my hope and my goal is
Level
that
30. They're at level 30,
yeah,
right?
exactly, level 30. That's a great way to put it. We have lots of gamers in the space too. I'm sure they would love that. But that,
Like, yeah.
when they leave, that they have the understanding of the realistic function of the world, but they
Mhm.
feel somewhat prepared to take that on with some of the community that they build, some of the independent experiences, transitioning from the transitional house into their independent house and calling a space of their own, being able to make that however they want to. Um, I think that is the continued goal.
And just to piggyback on that, our wait list is quite extensive. And unfortunately, our space is so small, right? So a big push that we're doing is just trying to gain more partnership with other housing facilities so that we can house more youth and get more youth off our wait list. Because it's sad to say that we have such an extensive wait list of people just waiting around, needing a safe space, and not being able to fulfill that desire. Sometimes that's a burden that we carry.
And if I
What is it that you guys like? Is Toronto a positive, like a useful, like a good city for you guys? Like, are you supported in Toronto, Ontario area?
Yeah, I would say we're very much supported. Toronto is very diverse, which works out very well in cities like Toronto. So you have this great level of acceptance and support and resources that you're able to connect people to easily. But Toronto has a housing crisis.
Yep.
So that's one of the reasons we have so many unhoused youth and people in general, because it's hard to afford living in Toronto right now.
Yeah.
It's
If
very difficult.
Yeah.
if I could add to your tenure question, it would be that there is money isn't an issue, and that the funding is there to dive into not only our organizations but the organizations that also support us. They need
Mhm.
just as much funding. The wait lists are long all around. There's not a short wait list anywhere. And so I think if we met that need and people were supported and they didn't have to wait so long, there'd be a huge difference there. So
Yeah,
definitely I would agree. That's a big part of the push.
that makes a lot of sense, especially with what you guys were mentioning around the housing climate and what,
Mhm.
how tough it is there. All right, so this is like where we lighten it up and we do our rapid fire. Are you guys ready for this?
Yeah.
Actually, I think both of you are kind of born for this. So, okay, so coffee or tea?
Tea.
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 Really, both of you tea?
Yeah.
We were
Well, I
colonized
grew up
by the British.
I was
Caribbean.
going to say
I-
it's the British colony
yeah, we
there.
grew up Caribbean, and there's
A
tea
little,
for everything.
a little spot
Yes,
of tea.
every
Okay, what do
healing
you put in it?
mechanism.
Uh, my favorite is minty. I love
I love
peppermint.
mint tea too.
Yeah.
What about you, Yuri?
And if I'm going to McDonald's, it's an extra large orange pico, 2 milk, 2 sugar. If I'm sick, it's lemon ginger. If I have an upset tummy, it's peppermint.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. Early morning or late night thinker?
Late night thinker. I have insomnia, so I'm usually up at night. So yeah, this is my time. This is my vibe. If you
That's
say
your
night,
prime
I'm
time.
come on. Yes.
Yeah. I would say late night shower thinker. I do my deepest thoughts in the
Ooh.
shower.
That's also another really great way to ground is
Yeah.
water, actually.
I call it washing the day away.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think, well, we found out my daughter is on the spectrum a little bit, and water is something I'm like, why does she take like 2 showers a day sometimes? And it depends on like her level, like it really does sort of like even
Calm.
her out. Yeah, it's grounding for her. It's really fascinating. One word that describes the team.
One word?
I know there's always so many, but
Extravaganza.
oh, good word.
Yeah.
My team, I'd say wholesome.
Oh,
Oh,
They're
that
just
is very
so
cute.
adorable. I love them.
Want to pinch your
I
cheeks.
tell them, like my youth, I love them. I love my staff.
A place for you that feels grounding.
My home. I'm so protective of my space.
Mm-hmm.
When I have friends who came to that I've known for years that came to my house for the first time this February, because I
Oh
did
my
a games night.
God. Like I've been really protecting it.
Yeah, I'm so protective of my space.
That's
Like I think it's my sense of security. So my home.
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, I
good.
think also that goes back to our culture talking about energy and what energy you're bringing into your spaces can affect the rest of your life too. Elton, I'm torn. I'm torn between that and parks. I grew up in parks and
Yeah.
camping. And so my feet in the
Nature.
dirt leaned up against a tree specifically. Yeah.
I'm a tree hugger, so I get that. I have to be in nature. I'm a
But
Taurus.
outside of my home, a beach, any beach.
Ah,
Mm,
I see that.
in the
I
sand.
love the beach. Yes.
See that.
That's good.
I see that, King.
A small joy you never skip in a week.
Can you see this
Oh,
bean?
yes.
That's
Is
my
that a
little
cat or is that a cat?
That's a cat. That's my little echo.
Oh, that's your baby.
That's my emotional support animal.
Totally. What about you, Elton?
I'd say a small joy is like a quick chat with my friend.
Hmm.
Like we call each other. Sometimes she wakes me up at 7:30 and I'm like, girl. But I look forward to it because if she don't call, then I'm like, hey, are you okay? Is everything good? So I look forward to our morning talks.
If Friends of Ruby had a theme song, what would it be? I feel like with your word, Yuri, extravaganza, I don't know why it's coming to me, but that RuPaul song.
I know you're gonna go there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think.
Runaway. I love that song.
Yeah, it's a good track. I think the Proud Family theme song is the first one that comes to me.
So what is it?
Proud Family. You and me will always be a tie. Family every single day and night. Even when you start to acting like a fool, you know
You're
we
so-
love in every single thing you
You
do.
do. I
Oh,
love that.
all right. I like that. Okay, then the last question. What does living out loud mean to both of you?
God.
Living out loud means living your most authentic self, just being genuine with who you are and just not sacrificing, not showing up in the way that you want to show up. So be bold, be proud, and be loud.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah. I would echo the same sentiments. And I think uh, if I can add anything, it's just the way a lot of different cultures have, just speaking to Caribbean culture, it's just those Caribbean youth who walk through my door and Hispanic youth that walk through my door. It's very important for me to empower them that you can be proud of your culture. You can still be a part of your culture. You're not
Mhm.
barred off from things for simply being queer.
Yeah.
And so everything that Elton said is like the whole of me, who I am, my race, my nationality, my ethnicity, my religion, all of that and all of those pieces can coexist, and I can be queer.
Mm-hmm. I love that. You guys, thank you for the work you do. Gosh, as a mom, thank you for taking care of these babies up there, because I would want to hug every single one of them. So appreciate you guys so much. Appreciate Canada. You guys are our friends to the north. I love you dearly and really appreciate you. So thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks
so
for
much.
having us. Yeah,
Absolutely.
this was fun.
If you liked this episode, please hit the follow button and remember, sharing is caring. Until next week, stay proud, stay loud.